Monday, April 13th. After a grueling series of flights and airport layovers, Sherry and I found ourselves at the Town Lodge Hotel in Windhoek, Namibia. We touched down at Hosea Kutako International Airport at 7:30. Passport control, luggage pickup, customs, and our ride to the hotel took a few hours, and it was after 10 before our heads hit the pillows, but then only a minute or so before we were sound asleep. We didn't sleep too long, but didn't do much the rest of the day except go out for a little walk, and we found a Portuguese restaurant for dinner. Cod for Sherry, ribeye for me. When Sherry complimented the waitress on her tightly braided hairstyle, the girl offered to braid a strand of Sherry's hair. Then, back to the hotel and bed. Tuesday, April 14th. Knowing our travel would be arduous, we gave ourselves a day to recover before our tour actually began. We woke up refreshed and had a good breakfast before taking a cab to the Namibian Independence Museum. We knew next to nothing of the local history, and the museum covered everything from the pre-colonial times to the 1880s, when it was occupied by Germany and known as German Southwest Africa. Settlers confiscated land from the natives and forced them into almost slave labor. The natives rebelled in the early 1900s, resulting in about half the population dying, shot, starved, or from poisoned well water. Acting for the British during World War I, South Africa ousted the Germans, and the surviving natives found themselves living under apartheid laws. The 1960s saw a war for independence begin, but it wasn't until 1990 that the nation of Namibia became fully independent, named for the Namib Desert, which in the native Khoekhoa language means vast place or an area where there is nothing. The new country successfully transitioned from white minority apartheid rule to a democratic society, and since March of 2025 has had a woman president.
Glory to their bravery, whose blood bought our freedom. We give our love and loyalty
Just a short walk from the museum were the Namibian government offices, which at least while we were there were not open to visitors. Also closed was the park area in front of Parliament, but the flower beds surrounding the park were well maintained and beautiful. That evening, we met our fellow travelers with Explore Worldwide who had contracted with Namibia Tracks and Trails to bring us to see the sights for the next 12 days. Explore specializes in small group tours, and including Sherry and myself, we had 10 in our group. Sarah, Peter, Geraldine, Carol, David, Mary, Richard, and Paula, all from the UK. Except one Australian, and of course Sherry and I, Americans. Rian would be our driver and guide. We had a nice get-to-know-you dinner at the hotel, and then off to bed. Wednesday, April 15th. After breakfast at the town lodge, we had all our luggage loaded into the trailer of our excursion vehicle and left Windhoek for the long drive to Hammerstein Lodge near Sesriem. We'd be driving about 260 miles, most of it over dirt roads, as would most of our driving in Namibia, and our drive would take us into the Namib Desert, the oldest desert on Earth dating back to 80 million years ago, with some of the tallest dunes in the world, some up to 980 feet. We left the pavement shortly after passing through Rehoboth. At Windhoek, we made a toilet stop, where Rian met a childhood friend and Sherry took a picture of a group of schoolboys. We arrived at Hammerstein Lodge in the late afternoon and took a short nap, then a walkabout around the lodge. Dinner was a buffet and featured fried kudu cutlets. After dinner, the kitchen staff entertained us with native chants and dancing. Thursday, April 16th. We were up at 5:30 for breakfast and a drive into the desert of the Namib-Naukluft National Park to see the red dunes in the early morning light. We arrived at the parking area of our trailhead and were presented with two options. The first would be climbing Big Daddy, a challenging trek. The dune towers more than 1,000 feet from its base and is ranked among the 10 tallest dunes worldwide. Its actual height varies due to the shifting nature of the blowing sand. The loose and shifting sand makes climbing difficult, and it's been described as 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Most climbers take about an hour and a half to reach the top. From there, it's a steep descent into Dead Valley, an amazing place. We chose, along with everyone except Paula who climbed up, the lower trail leading directly to Dead Valley, a word combining the English dead with the Afrikaans vallei, meaning dead marsh. 1,000 years ago, camel thorn trees grew in the area, getting moisture from the marsh along the Chao Chab River. Almost 900 years ago, blowing and shifting dunes blocked the flow of the river, changing its course. The trees died, and without any moisture, didn't decompose, instead drying and turning black from the intense heat. The dead forest stands in a white salt pan surrounded by the red dunes. This is one of the most photographed natural wonders of the world, and we were treated to a truly National Geographic moment due to a recent ultra-rare rain which created a pond, offering a reflection of the Big Daddy Dune. This is the lowest point here, and this is where the water ends. It will just evaporate from this point. And what was the name of this, sure?
Souslevé.
Souslevé.
No, Souslevé. Souslevé.
Okay, got it. Souslevé. We made a brief stop at Sesriem Canyon before returning to Hammerstein Lodge. Sesriem gets its name from the 6 lengths of rawhide rope needed to bring a bucket of water up from the Chao Chab River. Back at Hammerstein Lodge at 3 p.m. and out again at 4:30 for an optional game drive. 5 of our group of 10 went: David, Carol, Paula, and us. There are 2 types of weaver birds, solitary and sociable, both types having a few species. A breeding pair of the solitary type, as you might expect, builds a single nest as a breeding pair. The sociable weaver builds a huge nest as part of a colony that may include 250 or 300 individual birds. We weren't able to see any of the birds close enough to identify or get photos, but we did see many of their nests. The birds in these images from the internet are common in Southeast Africa and might be the species that built these nests. We saw some zebra and some springbok in the distance, then came up on a family group of giraffes. Two types of hares are found in Namibia, the African savannah and the Cape scrub. Even the experts can have difficulty identifying them in the wild. Since we weren't close enough to examine this guy's teeth, we'll just call him, or her as the case may be, a rabbit. We drove onto the Wikabi Safari Lodge, a privately owned reserve, and came up on a family group of 3 white rhinos. We learned that the difference between a white rhino and a black has nothing to do with color. White is a mistranslation of an Afrikaans word meaning wide, referring to its mouth. And the black is called black simply because it's not a white. They are 2 separate species with different characteristics. For instance, the white is significantly larger than the black. We drove to the lodge at Wikabi, where there is a nice viewing area overlooking a pond. Our 3 rhinos wandered over and joined 2 that were already there. The sun was getting lower in the sky and it was time to go view the sunset. On the way back to our truck, we saw a group of bat-eared foxes. We drove to a beautiful spot where our driver set up an open bar on the truck's tailgate. We enjoyed our drinks while the sun sank below the mountains.